Welcome to the Let's Talk Property with MFS podcast. MFS are a bridging loan and buy-to-let mortgage provider and not a financial advisors. The opinions expressed in this episode are personal to the host and guest and may not reflect the views of MFS. Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Property with MFS, the podcast that covers everything property. Today we have my good friend Paul Dorran-Jones from Town & Country Auctions here to talk about the auction market with us today.
Yep, hi Mark.
Thanks for coming on today. Really appreciate you taking the time out to see us. Normally like to start with people about your property journey, because obviously you've not always been in the property market. So tell us a bit about your career to date and what got you here.
Yeah, it's a good question, Mark. Obviously in a former life I was a professional rugby player. Yeah. So I spent 13, 14 years getting smashed to pieces for a living, running into far bigger people than I was.
If that's possible.
Definitely is possible. And although that left a few bumps and scrapes, at the back end of my career, I was obviously looking at what the next step was, how I was going to try, make the move into civilian life, as it were. So started with the property game. It goes hand in hand with sportsmen, I suppose. Yeah. Started buying, houses, projects, renovations. Started getting more sophisticated. Yeah. Started looking at opportunities with planning. Options and auctions. And that's obviously transpired that I've ended up being an auctioneer. And now it's kind of a poacher turned gamekeeper, I suppose. So it's been an interesting journey. And it's one that's, I'm really enjoying.
So, I mean, there's obviously 95% of the people listening to this today will know what an auction house is, but can you give me a bit of background on what you guys do at Town & Country and what sort of clientele you're currently seeing?
Yeah, so we run a national online auction. We run it monthly. We have 17 offices across the country, but we're part of a national group. And what we're doing is we're selling properties or land by auction treaty. And by auction treaty generally means, we put any lot onto our platform, market it. It gets accompanied with a legal pack, and we take, on a set day, we will sell that property, we'll put it up for auction, we'll set a guide price, which hopefully generates competitive bidding, get lots of people swarming around it, everybody wanting to buy this property. They hopefully have reviewed their legal pack prior to the auction, although it still bemuses me that some don't.
Do you know what? It amazes me the amount of people that don't do that.
Mate, it's crazy, absolutely crazy. We strongly advise to review the legal pack and take advice on it. The people, the amount of times we hear, if I had £1 for every time I heard, I haven't reviewed the legal pack, I haven't even looked at it, I'd be a very, very wealthy man. But
wouldn't need to be an auctioneer.
Wouldn't need to be an auctioneer. I wouldn't need to be an auctioneer. So look, we really advise them to sort of go over the legal pack, get some advice on it, and put forward your best bids. And it's quite an exciting place to be on an auction day. Lots come up, property that you're interested in comes up. We start seeing bids that come in. Then it ticks over, the reserve price gets met, and then suddenly it all becomes very frantic and flurry of bids as the lot is closing, and somebody wins it.
I suppose auction day is very exciting. It's a bit like transfer day, isn't it?
Exactly. And if you like your football, it's exactly that. Very fast pace, quite exciting. Yeah. But I think from a practical point of view, it's committed, because as soon as somebody wins that auction, prior to the auction going up, the auction lot going up, all bidders will have been registered, qualified, vetted. They also would have put a bit of security up, so we know that they're bona fide and serious. The winning bidder then will get a memorandum of sale and will then put a non-refundable 10% deposit on, and they have 28 days to complete. And for any seller, that's a hugely attractive thing in this current market, because they've got security, they've got speed, and they've got the ability to kind of move forward with peace of mind. And I think there's a huge value in that at the moment, especially.
Yeah, because there's quite a lot of stuff that's sort of taking its time to sell, and a lot of people, I think as well, a lot of people will be using the auction routes. You can potentially get better money for it, because once people start bidding, anything can happen.
Yeah, really. Exactly, and that's why we try to generate competitive bidding. When you get a couple of people vying for the same lot, then that's when you get the best prices. But look, there has been a calibration in values of things. because people cannot get access to mainstream funding anymore.
Yeah.
You know, or definitely not at the same, you know, at the same rate and
price.
same cost, exactly, as you know very well. So, you know, there has been a bit of we have had to manage the expectation of our vendors and our clients.
Yeah.
You know, it is a buyer's market out there at the moment, and there's always that kind of juggle, which is where we come in to try and manage the two.
To marry them both up,
yeah,
and
marry
make
them
it
up
seamless.
and make it, yeah, and sit them in the middle, and hopefully everyone walks away with, you know, with a deal in their mind. So, but I suppose the main thing or the main benefit is that we are transacting.
Yeah.
You know, they are happening, they're completing, and they're doing so in a increasing fashion.
And a lot of your lots are selling. You're not left with a lot, are you? Out of all the
No,
lots
really
you're getting, would you say that you're seeing that? You know, go back 2 years ago. Would you still seeing the same buying amount of buyers, or are you seeing more?
We're seeing more people, without a doubt. There's a huge uptick in you know, people who are coming across us and all the other auction, you know, houses. Amazing. I suppose. And in times of sort of market uncertainty, that's typically the way it goes.
Yeah.
And long may it continue from my perspective. But yeah, I think also as people get, as auction migrates into a more mainstream world, I mean, i.e., you know, we're marketing things on Rightmove, we're putting things out there in a farm online, as opposed to the old dusty kind of auction rooms. We're getting more traction. People are understanding it. It's not a murky old world. It's now out there, and people see the power of non-refundable deposit and 28-day completion. It's committed, and I think that's the big drawback with private treaty sale in my mind.
Because someone could put an offer in, but they're not committed, are they?
Yeah, and as you know, someone can walk around, buy your house. They walk into mine next door. They buy mine. They buy the one next door, and then, you know, come time to pay for it, they've let 5 or 6 people down, and the chain completely collapses. So, yeah, that's where we differ, and that's where we definitely add some value.
So obviously, you know, property auctions are very different to the other types of car auctions, antique auctions. What do you guys prepare? What do you need to prepare to bring a property to auction? Do you have to view every single one? What do you generally tend to look at when onboarding a property?
So when we're onboarding a property, we will obviously run a high level desktop valuation typically, and that will be with an auction house or an auction head in mind. We then will set a guide and reserve price with the owner, and manage their expectation at that point. Yeah. And once that's agreed, it's very simple. We instruct a preparation of a legal pack, which generally takes sort of a week, 10 days. And that is all of the kind of, you know, minutiae that goes alongside an auction property. And we market it online. It's very, very simple. And once it's online, it's kind of out there for all to see. We have a schedule of auctions that property will fall into. Yeah. And we start taking interest, start taking inquiries, start taking viewings. You know, a very, very simple process.
Fantastic. And I suppose, like you're saying, that's why a lot of people go in this way, because of the, you know, it's simple. Yeah. There's your property. We'll get it gone for you. Yeah. And you can get your funds quite quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, where there might be this perception that you might achieve a lower purchase price or sales price for your property, that actually translates to you being a cash buyer in your next transaction, and you have far more clout in that transaction, and allows you to hopefully negotiate slightly stronger. So in our mind, it's actually the differential doesn't actually stack up so high.
It's brilliant. And I mean, you know, we had this conversation last week when we met, that you're seeing more and more, and it's a topic that's been quite prevalent over the last few sort of episodes that we filmed, are the buy-to-let investors that are leaving the market at the moment. And, you know, you were saying that you've got so many properties coming onto auction where people are just either at retirement age, just want to, you know, quickly sell and move on with that. Are you seeing, is it a massive increase that you're seeing?
Yeah, we are seeing a huge increase, especially in terms of inquiries. You know, as you know, it's not just the cost of finance for these, you know, these buy-to-let investors, but it's also the legislation, the bureaucracy around it. To kind of, that encapsulates that whole market. It's becoming increasingly difficult to run and operate those for a profit and a meaningful profit. So we're definitely seeing those, you know, those opportunities, and I think they're going to increase as we go through the year and you know, and next year. So it's definitely an exciting time, and it's definitely one, if you're looking to acquire something or step in or find an investment, we're definitely worth having a look at.
It's definitely a good time to look at stuff. And the buy-to-let investors, are they like large portfolio landlords? Are they the sort of the accidental landlord that you find in coming through your door? People with maybe one or two, it's a property that they lived in, they've moved abroad, they're renting it, and
we're definitely seeing the accidental landlord, without a doubt. But we are also seeing the kind of professional landlord with portfolios. I think typically they're trying to streamline their portfolios, and there's kind of a flight to quality, as it were. And maybe some of those units that perhaps aren't in their patch or are harder to manage, or for whatever reason they're slightly outside their model, they're looking to maybe offload those now and solidify their positions, I suppose.
I suppose people's what they want out of a portfolio changes over time, and I suppose when you're sort of in your younger years, you've got time to run around and look after 50 properties, but then the older you get, the less management you get. So you see a lot of people just trying to sell a load to buy one big one. Are you seeing that sort of stuff?
Yeah, we're seeing all sorts, and it's horses for courses on this. And I think it's something that we really try to cater for. We've got quite a width of knowledge within the group. So we really want to try and assist people and advise them from a first perspective, and say, look, what are you trying to achieve? How are you trying to achieve it, and how can we help you with that? And I think we're seeing all different.
I think that approach is an amazing approach, and then you guys are obviously expanding staff-wise and everything else-wise to provide that better service for the people involved. So do you find you have to educate a lot of people, new people coming in, or?
Yeah, I mean, we do have to educate, and I think that's one of the hurdles to our industry. Actually, is do people is making sure people really understand the process. And
it's not as simple as homes under the hammer, is it?
Well, it's not as simple as homes under the hammer. But at the same time, once you know it, it is quite simple. Yeah. It's definitely more simple. It's definitely easier and more simple than a private treaty transaction. Yeah. I really believe that. But it takes a little bit of time for people to kind of understand that change and take the leap, I suppose. But it's one that's definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, and I think it's like saying it is that nerve-wracking bit, isn't it, with an auction house? You're sitting there, you're bidding on it, and
I think from my perspective, it's about setting your parameters. Doing your homework, doing your DD around the legal pack. I mean, basic stuff.
To your numbers.
Basic stuff, right? That probably apply across the property game. Sticking to your numbers, sticking to your patch, knowing what doing all your homework before you get in the room. Yeah. Not getting carried away, setting your top upper limit and your stop gap. The people who exceed that, it's amazing. But there's a beauty in that, and that's when we get excited.
I think it's one of those ones, isn't it? We've seen some of the auction houses I've been in recently. You've seen quite a lot of people like overbidding for stuff. If you're an end user, you're going to use it as your family home. Fair enough. Yeah. When some people looking at property investments, you sort of wonder why. Maybe they're something we don't know, but I think you see a lot of that. It actually leads me on to my sort of next question. People make quite a few mistakes when they're doing this. Is there any sort of general mistakes that you're seeing people at auction do, or is there things they should be doing more of?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a couple of avenues really that the auction people only assume that you can buy an auction lot on auction day, and that's not correct.
No.
So any lot that we're marketing, if you were keen on it and you had made a decision on it, you don't necessarily have to wait till auction day. You can call the auctioneer and say, can I put in an offer prior to the auction? I don't want to go bidding with everybody. I want to try and get this before the auction. What would it cost for me to buy this property today? Now, sometimes that's possible, sometimes it's not, but it's definitely worth inquiring on that basis. Yeah. And from our perspective, we welcome that, because it's it shows an element of pragmatism. 100%. It shows get your cards on the table. With the certain lots, we certainly can sell them prior. With our vendors' blessing. So. And that goes, if for some reason a lot hasn't sold, again, they get sold post, and there's deals to be had post. For whatever reason, a lot might have missed, or they might have been bids but hadn't quite hit the reserve price. That then might cause the owner to reflect on the reserve price and maybe bring it down a little bit. So there's some bargains to be had prior and post, and that's one that I would definitely say. And I suppose in terms of what are people doing incorrectly, I mean, can't stress it enough, is the legal pack review. It's just
basically just read it.
Just read it, take a view on it, get it done early, and that gives you such a
Still flabbergasted. People making this huge financial commitment would not read the small print or the terms of the sale of the property, the legal pack, and what's actually, what the property is, because a photo can only tell you so much.
Yeah.
It's all the other stuff that comes with it that,
Yes.
whether there's, something going on.
Yeah, defective title, short lease.
Yeah.
Subsidence. Any of these issues generally will be dealt with in the legal pack. And that is, that should be reflected in a price.
Yeah.
And as long as you've got your eyes open and you're aware of these things, you should be able to deal with them. But it's you will be amazed at the people who perhaps buy them and then that comes out in the wash is surprising.
You didn't tell me about this. Well, I did.
Yes, I did. It's there. It is there. And it's not really for the auctioneer to kind of get involved in those in the minutiae of that. That's what the legal pack is for.
Your job is providing the legal pack.
Our job is to provide it and to kind of advise from a high level. But we're not solicitors and we're not so we don't really take stances on those pieces. We're about selling that in its current form to a buyer for cash, in short.
Perfect. So, I mean, is there a style of property you're seeing most of at the moment going in the auction houses? Is it sort of HMO stuff? Is it commercial buildings?
Yeah, I think HMOs are coming through and they're great investments. The one that I suppose that seems to be moving a little bit more than perhaps it was are the commercials with uppers. I think
the old banks. And
yeah,
stuff like
the old
that.
banks, William Hills. There's a lot of high street properties and portfolios that are being disposed of.
Yeah.
Because as we know, the demise of the high street, there's going to be a lot of these freeholds that are being, repurposed. The beauty for me, and I'm sure you guys talk about this an awful lot, but is the utilisation of perhaps your SAS pension or your SIP, to be able to buy these properties. Yeah. And then the conversion of the uppers back into residential and deploying them, splitting the title and selling them back out. That seems like a really utilised model at the moment, and it's one that seems to be working.
Especially like the William Hill buildings, where we know they take out the staircases, don't they?
Yes.
So
yeah, exactly. Case in point. So we've sold a flurry of William Hills across the country, and obviously one of their business models is to remove the staircase so that they don't pay business rates on the uppers. Yeah. Now they leave the uppers to kind of rack and ruin. But when they come to sell these things, that's where the opportunity is to reinstate staircase, separate access, subject to permissions and building regs and all those bits and pieces. But carving those off onto maybe leaseholds and selling them off, and you can end up retaining the kind of commercial, the commercial side, in your pension. So I think that's a really nice kind of cyclic model, which people are utilising. That's not a new trick, but I think as the market oscillates, you find different strategies tend to come to fore.
I think you got to really, haven't you? And then, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I know we talk about things with short leases and title splitting. You've seen a lot of people buying stuff to do that.
Always with the short leases. I mean, you get the kind of specialists who know the mechanism inside and out. Yeah. And they come in and they love a short lease because that's where they find their value. Yeah. They're happy to go in on it. They don't see it as risk. They see it as value, an opportunity. And I think power to those guys because it's a really great model.
Yeah, because anything under 80 years is sort of the sweet spot. But I've seen that you've had quite a lot of stuff that's on like 30, 40 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's as that gets, there's always a school of thought that gets more expensive as those leases run down. But there's also another school of thought at the moment that says that those lease renegotiations are going to become cheaper in the next few years as well. So maybe it's worth sitting on them for a moment and sort of revisiting it in a couple of years' time. Everything's slightly more expensive at the moment. We're seeing that. Yeah. So maybe there's a kind of an equilibrium to be found.
Happy days.
A year or two.
So what pointers would you give anyone first time in an auction house, never been before? What would be your number one tip?
My number one tip would be ring us up.
Call That's us. Simple.
We've got a team. I think one of the things that we focus on at Town and Country is that we really want to give that customer service. We're a smaller operator than some of the big boys, but that gives us the time and the space to be able to deal with each customer one by one. So call us up, ask us. Put your concerns out there. Let us try and help you or understand where you are on your journey. And let us advise you. And we might turn around and say, have you seen this? Maybe this one's not for you. Or do you know what? I completely agree with you. Jump in with this one. Yeah. Or take this advice. Or that's what we're there for. Ultimately we want satisfied customers, satisfied sellers.
People keep coming back.
People keep coming back. They're the best customer. So that's what we want. That's what we're here for. So that would be my first. The other one would be, if you get involved in the auction, get yourself a specialist auction conveyancer, not a high street conveyancer. They're two different languages, as it were.
Yeah.
To go back to my sporting background, it's like rugby league and rugby union. They're two different games.
Yeah.
Played with the same ball. They look very similar, but they're not.
Yeah.
So get yourself a specialist conveyancer, somebody who does it all day, every day, someone who is used to the speed of the transaction.
And it's the speed of it, isn't it?
That is
it's
exactly
a big
it.
thing.
Because they will pick up the phone, they will understand the time pressure on these inquiries, and they will deal with them very quickly. We have a panel of them who effectively, drive our business, and we highly recommend, sort of probably 10 guys that we work with all day, every day if we can, and they're fantastic. I'm not saying that the others aren't fantastic, but I'm just saying that they've got a different set of values that they work to.
Well, it's a different thing, isn't it?
Exactly.
Because conveyance on a normal resi mortgage compared to something. It's the same for us with bridging, with our bridging sort of inquiries. Everything's going fast, and you need your lawyer to keep up.
Exactly.
Especially in the auction house, you've got 28 days.
Yeah, exactly. So you
Don't
can't,
pay 28
lose
days.
a week, you can't lose a week on an inquiry.
No,
So
you can't even lose a day in it, really.
No, exactly.
Especially if you're trying to organise finance.
Yeah.
You've got that side of it.
Yeah.
You've got the conveyancing side of it. So you've got all of it mashed into one. It just needs to move.
Just picking up on that point, it's a good point, is that if you are, say, getting finance, that is when it becomes very important to get on the phone and try and do something prior or post.
Yeah.
Because in that instance, you could negotiate a longer completion date. So not a 28-day, maybe a 56 or maybe a 6 week.
My finance is in place. I'm at this stage. I need a little bit more time.
Yeah, I need 6 weeks, or I need 8 weeks, or however long you get it. Now, we might turn around and go, do you know what, seller, absolutely no chance on this one. So put it out your mind. But some of them might go, seller very keen for, we'll take an 8 week completion. So, that's a great example of, of leveraging, the pre and post auction route.
We always recommend people for our clients, because we do a lot of auction financing. On bridging or buy-to-let, it's both the same for us, really. We always say to people, at least get a quote from us first. Know what you can sort of look at. Know what the numbers are going to look like. Make sure they work within the model, because there's no point bidding on something and then realising your finance costs are X, Y, and Z, and you're sort of like, it's not really going to work. So we always recommend, because with us you can sort of get pre-authorised before you go bid on the day.
Which is a great position to be in, right? And from our perspective, that shows, really quite a savvy, that's the right way to approach it. And from we've got no issue with auction, with bringing finance into these purchases. It doesn't have to be purely cash buyers, but have to have taken some sort of step towards finding that. But again,
you'd be surprised the amount of people. Will. Mark, I've just won a bid on an auction.
I won it 7 days ago.
Yeah,
amazing.
There's a hell of a lot of that. But look, I just wanted to say a big thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
I've been asking everyone this question. What do you see happening with the property market over the next 6, 12, maybe 18 months? I know it's a crystal ball scenario, but what do you think is going to happen?
I think, look, it's going to. I think it's going to continue to go great guns. I think everybody's got to stick to what they're doing. They're doing it very well.
Yeah.
Don't ever underestimate your detail. Don't underestimate your homework. Get out there. Have courage in your conviction.
Yeah.
And keep doing what you're doing, because we can't afford for it to stop and to stall, really. So it's got to keep going.
I think it will. And again, it's just nice to see more people in the auction houses now taking opportunity. It's a fantastic platform for people to buy and sell properties, and something that's I've seen expanding over years. But it'd be good for you to let people know, where can we find you?
Yeah, so we're online at www.tcpa.co.uk, Town and Country Property Auctions.co.uk. We're on email at london@tcpa.co.uk. Please give us a visit, get in touch. give us a shout, and yeah, we'd love to hear from you. LinkedIn, Instagram, all of it. So
Fantastic.
yeah, please give us a shout. We look forward to hearing from you.
Brilliant. Well, look, thanks again for coming on today, and yeah, look forward to seeing you again soon.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Just like to say thank you for tuning in to Let's Talk Property with MFS today. Please don't forget to comment and subscribe, and don't miss out on any of our future episodes. If you want to learn more about Market Financial Solutions and what we do, please do visit www.mfsuk.com.